Hi guys, Oracle here, and you're welcome to another episode of the Pragmatic Approach Show. Thank you all for the support thus far. We are counting and hoping that you continue to support us by liking, sharing, commenting, and most importantly, subscribing on our YouTube channel. Sure.
Hello, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for always coming back to the channel. Please keep on watching. We're gonna keep the good work coming. Like you said, please like, subscribe, help us get into the algorithm. Right now, we are being suppressed because we're Africans, but we need y'all to support this channel so that we can get there because we have a lot to talk about. A lot of meaningful conversation will be happening here, but it will be worthless if we cannot get it out there to the people. So please support this business. This is a black business. Even though I don't like to use these terms, but hey,
This is a
support your
DEI
small
business.
black business. Please, thank you. Hit the like and subscribe. Welcome back to the channel.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
All right. On today's episode, we will be discussing three important things actually. One, we'll be talking about Elon Musk, Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, and we'll talk about the trajectory of the Donald Trump's economy thus far, and then we will talk about the Ukraine and Russia war and the most recent update by the Trump administration. So that's what we will be discussing today.
Yes.
So, sure, let's start with the Department of Government Efficiency. That your guy, so or one of your guys. I mean, you have a few of them. Elon Musk is heading. Do you think Elon is going to? I mean, do you think Elon's work is going to be impactful or ultimately be more, effective in the long run? What he's doing at Dodge, do you believe in it? In simple terms, do you believe in what he's doing?
Yes. The simplest term is yes. I do believe in it. It's very surprising that Democrats used to be about this exact stuff. You remember when um, a lot of Democrats would be like, "Oh, the Democratic and Republican Party switched parties." I think this is exactly what's happening all over again. I really believe so, because now it seems like the Democratic Party are now the party of conservatives, in a sense, so to speak, right? Because now all of a sudden they don't want changes. They want to keep things the way they've been running, even though most people are very unhappy with the results we've been getting. But Trump came up with this idea. Actually, Elon Musk did. He said, you know what? What if we create the Department of Government Efficiency, whereby we audit how the government is spending our money? For the past 6 years, the defense budget has been unbalanced and nobody is saying anything. Same thing for most of the departments that we have in the government. So I think this is a um, definitely a move to the right path. And with Elon, I believe we can trust him as a businessman. He runs a trillion of dollar company, and if we can do that successfully, I think it will help us, especially in eliminating unnecessary waste that's been happening in the government, as well as helping us to balance our budget. We are in $33 trillion in debt. We cannot continue with this. Our children are going to pay for it. Our family are going to pay for it. And if we continue in this trajectory, we are most likely going to fail. We do not want this nation to be a failed state because we hold the whole world together. So, with that being said, I think yes, this is
So,
going to be very beneficial in the long run.
so you see, I agree with you with one thing you said about you know the budget needs to be balanced and the debt deficit needs to be reduced. So I agree on that. That's a very important thing that, it transcends party politics or affiliation. And I also think yeah, government should not be wasteful. But one of the things that I've seen that the department of whatever is doing is that they are also asking forcing people to resign, you know, freezing certain government expenses. I Earlier today I just saw the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, saying it will be taking the Trump's administration to court because certain money has been, stopped from going into the state that is affecting the some critical day-to-day government functions in the state, and by chance the other 49 states. So while I think, yeah, you want to cut the cost of government, you want to, you want to stop waste, there are still certain things that you still have to pay for. You still have to send money to these state governments to run, so that the day-to-day activities of government is not stopped. Also, another thing about the DOGE that I find a little funny is, if you're trying to you're trying to eliminate government cost or waste, so they say. Now you're creating a department to do that, which means you are also going to be hiring people, paying people. So yeah, it's more like you're still creating a new department when your goal is to eliminate certain department. I know that they're going on Department of Education. They're trying to put that down. A lot of government agencies. I think the U.S. aid whatever, they have they're 10,000 employee whatever. Now they're trying to downsize them to 294 people. Now that's like from 10,000 to 200 and something people. That's about 9,700 people that are going to be jobless. That's another angle of this thing that I am looking at. Like, part of your idea of cutting costs is creating unemployment.
Okay,
Don't
if I
you
may,
think that would create another problem? Because these people you're trying to, forced to resign or try to fire, they are going to come back into this economy, and that's going to create problems, because one of the things Biden did very well was more creation of jobs. It brought unemployment to, I think, less than 4%. But now, if you're firing 9,700 people from a 10,000 job capacity, those 9,000 come back into this job, whatever business, and that's a lot of chaos. The Department of Education too, by the time they're done trying to, do whatever they want to do there, those people will be largely unemployed and will be brought back into this economy. So what is going to happen to those people? That's my
great
question.
question. Great question. So I think, first of all, I think it would be a political suicide for any government to uh, accrue more unemployment during their tenure, right? So while cutting all these things might lead to some unemployment, I am pretty certain that these people have professionals working with them, and they will look at the cost versus the benefits they are getting from it. Unlike the Biden's administration that decided to hire almost 100,000 IRS people, paying them billions of dollars in wages and the other one. However, these people, they did not even recover how much they got paid. They didn't recover up to how much the government spent on the employees alone. So that's absolutely a waste of money. You are trying to recover money from the citizens. You decided to hire all these people, but you ended up losing. How is that a good investment? But in this case, I strongly believe that cutting the cost will be much more effective. So with Elon Musk, they are hiring people that are super young but very talented. They are not paying these people millions of dollars. They are paying them, whatever they get paid, which I don't know yet, right? But And then they are not hiring 100,000 people to do this job. They're just hiring the geeks that are very good at what they do to recover all this money. And with that being said, once they get the money, we can always compare. Let's compare how much they recovered versus how much they spent on the government. We cannot judge them just yet. It's too early to do that.
I'd agree with you, yeah, that it may be too early. And that's why I am not, my criticism yet is not more about what they're doing. It's just that my criticism right now is about the preliminary effect of those things, like creation of unemployment by, asking people to leave their job. Already there have been people who have said they've been offered, I think they offered them to pay them 7 months to resign and all that. But at the end of the day, it's between a twinkle of an eye, it will be 7 months. So whatever you even got paid would have gone, and especially with the current inflation. So it's not like, if you don't have a steady income, there's gonna be problem. So still, while on this Doge,
If I may quickly respond to what you're saying.
okay.
So, since almost day two that President Trump got into power, I mean, we've seen a lot of countries coming into this country talking about they are trying to invest in our economy. We are trying to slash overregulation that Biden administration decided to do. With the overregulation, that's going to lead to, like I said, overregulation. And please do not misquote me because I know where you're going to take this, right? So, with less regulation, I believe we're going to get more job creation, and that will help all
On
these
the
people that we're laying off.
Okay, so on the issue of job regulation, that's a digression, but I have to agree that, yeah, the under Biden, they were a little, you know too much about the regulations, but also they under in the first Trump administration, they were very calm about the regulation, and that there were consequences for that too. There were a lot of recalls on products because they were substandard, because there was less regulation. So I think under Biden, the main idea about why they were a little bit crazy about regulation was because they were trying to stop people from producing a lot of substandard stuff. I, particularly as a parent, there's been many cases where there's been recalls on items that we bought for our kids, and the next minute you hear, and some of these things, I'm not saying some of them are likely caused because there's less regulation and people just do whatever they like to do, and now they put it on the market, and consumer starts to use some of this product, and it causes and now they have to recall even after people possibly have used the product. So I still think, yeah, regulation should not be a do or die affair. It should be there should just be a standard. Yeah, don't bring it too low, don't make it too high. There should be a standard. And also, I think standards should be set based on the type of business I'm trying to start. If I'm trying to start a vending machine business, I shouldn't be going through the same standard as somebody that is probably trying to start a car business. It's two different businesses. So make those standards per what we're trying to do, and just don't be crazy about it. So I agree with you that. But still on this Department of Government Efficiency, I have a question. Last week or two, maybe last 2 weeks, it's been all around the internet that, as part of Elon's plan to cut government costs, they have been assessing people's privacy. Last I checked, Republicans were one big party that was against government invading their privacy. They were always about government staying out of their business, da da da. And I think the Democratic Party too doesn't want government in their business. At least that's one of the major things Kamala campaigned for back then. But that's besides the point. What's your take on this information that Elon is having access to Americans' personal data, as much as your social security and all of that? How do you feel about that?
Oh, thank you for that. I think, just as usual, the Democratic Party, they like to run with talking points. Even though we all know that the government is monitoring us, we know if you even think about something, if you think about a product, In the next 20 minutes, you're going to see it on your social media by just thinking about it. Now, Elon Musk, this same guy that was running PayPal, the mobile payment app, it had people's over 100 million people. It had their information, and nobody ever said anything. And he had the information for over 20 years.
So
Right now, it's still running multiple companies
so
where
I think the difference between when he had those information with PayPal was that's a private company. People are just trying to use us. Now people feel like government is in their business, and that's why there's an outrage.
But in this case, though, we deal with the government directly, right? We all have social security numbers provided to us by the government. So, with the government going into their own data, something they came up with, what's wrong with that? Elon Musk, in this case, is not really a private citizen,
So
he's a
another
contractor.
case is another point is this. People think those information, I mean, yeah, government tracks you, but nobody is sitting every day monitoring Oracle or shows, whatever. The more than likely the times government will go into your data as God forbid you commit crime or you're a victim of something and they need to check you. But in this case now, people just feel like this guy is just accessing people's data for no just cause at this point. There is no reason for that. You just want to go into people's business.
Okay, why do you think he's going into their data then?
I mean, I don't know. The best option. I mean, the most viable excuse they've created is, oh, they're trying to monitor people who take social security and all of that.
Yes, because it's necessary. What could it possibly do with your data? What can it do with it? It's not tracking your behavior by seeing your social security number. We have over 300 million Americans in the country. Is it going to go over each individual and try to, buy our data? What could it possibly do with all this data?
Sometimes
However, I
it's
think
not
this
more.
is,
I
go ahead.
think okay. So not to interrupt you, I think it's not more so about what it will do with it. It's more so about just the power he has to be able to assess those things, and that is the part that people don't like. Like, why are you assessing my information?
It's not necessarily invading the privacy of anybody when all it's doing is auditing. As an auditor, you need to see the data to make sure that everything reflects what they are saying it reflects. So right now, our baby boomers, they are in their 60s, 80s, and all of that. So these people, they are getting a lot of our money. Every time you pay, check your paycheck, check your pay stub. You are paying a lot in Social Security now. Social Security. So, and most of these are going into the baby boomers because there's so many of them. They are now retiring.
But in fairness to those boomers too, they paid this thing while they were working too.
You have to realize that there were a lot of them. Now it's way less people. Baby boomers are way more during their time. They have there's a specific reason why they are called baby boomers because there's so many of them. Now less people are paying into their own retirement, into their social security because we have to. Now things are much more expensive than it was back in the day. If you check our GDP when these people were working, especially when they were in their youth, it wasn't a lot that they took out of them. Now they have to take billions of dollars out of our money to take care of these people. So, with that being said, we need to know because we know most of our budget is going into all these government dependency type of things, where we are spending so much money, especially on healthcare and taking care of our people. That's where most of our money go to. So
Sure.
we need to see if the numbers are true. And without anybody auditing it, there's no way we can tell if the numbers are accurate or not.
Okay, I agree with you. So, rounding up this Department of Government Efficiency to go to other topics, I have one more question. So, there was a time Elon came out and said, "Oh, blah blah blah, $50 million was sent to Hamas for condoms," and everybody around with that news. And oh, people came, oh, Hamas this, Hamas. Now, eventually, they realized that that was a wrong information. there was actually $50 million for condoms, but it wasn't to Hamas. It wasn't to Palestine. It was to Mozambique, and the reason for that is because of the high level of HIV/AIDS in Mozambique, and part of the plan to reduce it is to provide enough contraceptive to those people, engaging in sexual activity. Now, how do you feel about somebody handling such an important role coming out and giving us wrong information? Then when you people come out, there was mixed reaction. Then after that, you came out to tell us, oh, it was a mistake. What do you? I mean, I know nobody's above mistake, and I still watched the Miss press conference in the White House yesterday talking about, oh, sometimes it may not be 100% correct, but which I understand. But don't you think, with already how edgy people are and how super sensitive people are already by now, if he wants to come out public, it should not just be in a ace, because Elon does this thing where he's in a hurry to get reaction, and he just says things that are necessarily not true, like this one. So
Yeah,
how do
I
you think they should manage those kind of level of misinformation that can cause chaos?
I think that's a fair criticism. I don't have to agree with everything they're doing just because, right now I like the Republican Party, not the whole party, but Trump himself. I like how he's handling things. So that's a fair criticism. If you're going to release information, make sure it's accurate. You don't want to deceive the whole population or just turn our back into all those uh, less fortunate Palestinians that are struggling. Now we're thinking people are funneling money, stealing, even though in this case, Mozambique, it's in Africa, we know that those people are struggling, and helping them with HIV, AIDS things is not really a bad thing. So I don't really think that's a good thing. I think before he releases information, they should make sure the informations are accurate before releasing it. But at the same time, this is not to make any excuse for him. This guy is autistic, man. Sometimes he will do some irrational things. And I'm not saying anything against autistic people. So
I mean,
that's my
I get it, and I quite understand that sometimes you may not be 100% accurate, but I think in this very time where people are very hypersensitive and everybody's on edge, you should be, you should be very sure before you release, statement. So moving away from that, um, now let's talk about the economy. Do you think this economy is heading towards the right trajectory?
Yes, I do believe it is. With all the executive orders that President Trump has signed, I think we are posed to do a lot of great things with this. On the first day, he signed one of the executive orders that President Trump signed is to help curb all this inflation and all the price uh, things that have been going up. We do not want this for our citizens, especially our retired citizens that are not making money. If everything keeps rising, if the inflation continues, there's no way they'll be able to afford life. Some of them will start committing suicide, which we do not want for our elder adults and our people that are maybe not mentally there, or they're on some type of disability because they're on fixed income. With their fixed income, they won't be as flexible as some people that can work one or two jobs. So I believe with all the regulations that we're cutting, unnecessary regulations, by the way, that we're cutting, and with the investments things that have been coming into this country, Saudi Arabia is one of them that will be investing into this country. Japan is another one that will be investing heavily into our country. And we're also in support of cryptocurrency. So a lot of men, a lot of youth and women, they may take advantage of that, and that will help us and our nation to propel to the further level, as well as all this unnecessary spending that we are cutting. I think that will also help us, because if you think about it, if we are cutting the costs of unnecessary spending, we can balance our budget and reduce our deficits. $33 trillion in debt. If we can reduce that, it's going to help us to reduce how much we are paying in, uh, what is it called? When you borrow money, the thing you
The
pay.
interest.
Yes, it will help us reduce the interest. Sorry, I had a brain for it.
But I mean, again, right now, I don't think the economy is heading in the trajectory or the trajectory Donald Trump promised us during the during the campaign. Pre his presidency, he told us, "Oh, on day one, is gonna slash the prices of grocery, this and the third." Today, those groceries are still as expensive, if not more expensive than they are. So the inflation is still going up. But I would believe you that I mean I know I've read in the news Saudi Arabia is planning to, I think, about 600 million or something. The last I checked, I may not be very correct with that, but I think it's around that price. I don't know how much Japan is trying to bring in, but we would see. I mean, it's just 24 days into the whatever, but we will see how those investment will affect the economy. But if you ask me right now, I don't think the economy is going anywhere that is good, especially with the increase in price of eggs. Eggs is now the new gold. Everybody talks about it, and I personally can relate. I just bought eggs 2 days ago after going to about three different stores before I was able to find it. Now, some stores are even telling us now you can't buy more than a certain crates because of the shortage and ridiculous amount of it. And also, gas prices are going up now. Those things are the day to day things that average Americans rely on, and those were not the promises of Trump during the campaign. But also, it's important to give grace. It, it's 24 days into it, so maybe in another 6 months, you will be able to fully talk about the trajectory or the trajectory of the economy under Trump. But thus far, I am not. I'm not positive, but I'm not pessimistic about it in the long run. But we'll see. And also because former President Biden had already laid a good foundation for the recovery of our economy post COVID. So like Trump did in his first time, he built on Obama's legacy. America is always prosperous under Democrats, anyways. That's a fact. So we would see if he will keep that idea of building on the blueprint of the economy that he inherited, like he did in his first time. But if I were to advise him, I'll tell him to build on the very solid and beautiful blueprint of Joe Biden, that he has laid down.
I will. I will try not to take away from Biden. Thank God we have moved on, and now we are in Trump's tenure. So I think we're gonna do a lot of great things. And then talking about the eggs being super expensive, I believe you know why eggs are expensive, because of the bird flu. Biden ordered a lot of farmers to call a lot of birds. So, which is why we are suffering from the egg shortages now. But, in no time, I believe we're going to get a lot of things back in place. Things are going to be running great again. We are starting to make America great again. 24 days in, I can already feel fresh air. I believe it's coming from heaven directly onto me. So a lot of
But
Americans
while
feel the
while while we're still on the issue of the economy, what's your position on tariff?
tariffs. I believe sometimes these are necessary things, right? Trump has been using it as a proposal, or is using it to bargain some certain things, that will benefit our country. Like we already know, a lot of all these other countries are taking advantage of us, because labor is one of the most expensive things we have in America. And that's why we can't really produce a lot of things here, because of labor. Because if it costs too much to produce one thing, and we can do it for cheaper rates in somewhere else, I think it's only fair enough to go do it somewhere else. But if those countries are taking advantage of us, why can't we put tariffs on things? Because sometimes you have to do this to protect the local businesses, right?
The unfortunate part of this tariff that Republicans and MAGAs keep saying is the producers of these things don't pay the tariffs. We have seen how these things work. Tariff is another form of tax. Now, what tariff does is, if I were a producer of something, I was gonna sell it $10. If the government adds tariff to it, I would increase the price of that thing to be able to afford government tariff, which ultimately goes back to the consumer. Basically, economics tells us that consumer pays it all. So whatever the you know producer, whatever pain, agony, whatever the producer goes through in making a product, it would not suffer for it. It is the consumer of those products that would be overly charged for those things. And we have seen people, I don't have a personal experience, but I have also seen one or two people on my own personal social media, at least one of my friends, who posted about a purchase they made, and they was told they still have to pay a certain amount of fee to be able to get those things because of the tariff. But one advantage of the tariff that I try to learn about this. So one advantage actually that I got from this whole tariff idea is that tariff usually forces the country to produce, because when people don't want to pay those things, they will be forced to either produce those things locally or start to patronize their locally made product. And I saw a clear example of that when Trump and Canada were going head to head about it. A lot of Canadian stores started putting signs on their product made in Canada, and a lot of people were forced to buy those made in Canada products. So you could tell that if that tariff war had gone on like that longer, it would have forced Canadians to buy from Canada like they would have before. So that's one advantage of the tariff. But ultimately, for certain products that may easily not be able to be produced, like you also said, labor is a big deal in production, and that's why some of these items are brought overseas, because to pay people per hour in America may be too expensive for an item, and whereas when you go overseas, you could pay them maybe $5 an hour, but the conversion rate in that country will be so much that it would be worth their labor there. Whereas you cannot pay nobody here $5-10 per hour. You're going to meet the Department of Commerce to explain why you are using people for labor. So I quite understand that, but hopefully there will be no need for unnecessary tariff. Like, I also would agree with you. I think genuinely it's not ready to impose those tariffs. It's just using them as a bargaining chip to get certain things done, which is cool, which is part of politics at the end.
Exactly. And if I may come in, right? So with all this, most nations on earth, they want to sell their product in America because they know they're gonna get a lot of money, because we are consumer. We like to buy things and we are consistent with it. If not because of us, China, for example, will be struggling a lot.
Yeah,
Look
I
at all
agree
the
with that.
countries we put sanctions on. They tend to go bankrupt, right? So any nation will put tariff on, even though right now the CNN of the world, the MSNBC, they try to pretend like tariffs don't affect the other nation, but it definitely does, because they will be forced to produce whatever, even though Americans might pay for it, but it's not going to be for a long time, because whenever we start producing on a large scale, things are going to be back to normal. And we just, I think America, we are very, very self-sufficient, and we can also bring people from other countries because everybody want to live here. So we can bring them. While I'm not clamoring for this, we can bring these
I agree
people.
with you that at the end of the day, I mean, as much as we say consumers are going to be affected by it, if people are now forced to start producing here, those things they also make, there will be nobody to consume them, and it's going to be a waste on their part. But rounding up this conversation on Donald Trump's economy, that I'm still, I mean, I'm not feeling any positive impact of yet, but I'm optimistic. I'm not a pessimist. I don't want the country to go bad because my guy
Will
is not,
affect you.
not
Uh,
my
Let me say this, whenever Biden was president for several years, besides the big stocks,
four
would
years,
you,
please.
what did you say?
He was only president for 4 years. Several
Well,
years, like he was there for long.
but whenever he was there, many penny stocks, the cheap stocks, were doing terribly bad. A lot of companies went bankrupt because of his overregulation. But would you believe that since Trump came back, a lot of those penny stocks have been rising? I'm talking about a lot of young folks that can only afford penny stocks are now buying a lot of the stocks again, and they are very, very happy with the returns they've been getting. So with this, as young folks are very, very happy with the way things are right now. The older folks, people living on fixed income, might not be the happiest people, but I think the young people, if they're making money, in no time we're going to be paying a lot of taxes, and that will also ultimately affect our elderly adults and people that cannot work, and that will be a positive thing for the country. But it's still 24 days. By the time we hit 100 days
We'll
mark.
see how that goes in another 3 to 6 months to a year. So, rounding up the economy, let's talk about the last thing that we'll talk about on this episode: the Russia and Ukraine war. So, the latest update that we have now, one, they they're trying to make these things seem like Ukraine just has to take their L and continue to live with Russia. I've seen couple from Trump. It's more like their approach to end this war. And I also saw this Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, whom I think is the worst person in this administration. He and RFK, I don't know who is the worst, but the I think RFK is still a little better than Hegseth. I think it's just like qualified for that job. He talks about Ukraine is not going to join NATO, point blank, period, and all of those things. And their approach towards this war, the conflict management idea, I think it was more favorable to Russia. And it's just the same approach is taken with Israel and Palestine, where there are two people having issues, and you just decide to pick one person to support against the other person, and you just create terms and conditions that you want the other person you didn't help or support to oblige to. I think the way they treating Zelensky right now is a little too unfair, and by extension they owe Ukraine by trying to stop them from joining NATO, trying to I think they're trying to give them some part of they're trying to give Russia some part of Ukraine as a means of concession. All of those things are not fair. That's it. That those are horrible way of stop of trying to bring peace. Yeah, we want peace. I don't want war. The war has lasted a little too long. It's cost America a lot of money. It's cost the world a lot. It's part of the reasons why there was inflation at some point. But the thing is this: Trump's approach are one-sided, and I have a problem with that. What's your position on this?
Yes, right now it looks like Trump's approach is bad, but the problem is none of those European leaders or American leaders have been trying to talk to Putin for the past 4 years. Nobody was trying to negotiate anything. Everybody was pro-war. The phrase that we're using is we will continue to support Ukraine for as long as long as it takes, while millions of people die, for as long as it takes, while many mothers were losing their children, as long as it takes, while our countries are going bankrupt. When does that stop? So with Trump being in presidency, is deciding to bring back common sense, trying to talk to Putin, because at the end of the day, America is the one that that's been supporting Ukraine the most. So talk to Putin, talk to him, negotiate. Okay, this is the way things are. These are what we think we can do, because Russia is struggling for sure. They've been sanctioned to the maximum, right? But other European countries are also suffering from all these sanctions they put on Russia. Now, electricity, a lot of power has been very, very expensive in Europe. A lot of companies are closing down because of that reason. You're on mute.
Yeah, because Russia was supplying those, and when they got sanctioned, they also had to increase the prices of those electricity and all of that.
Exactly. And with that being said, I don't see anything wrong with Trump going to talk to Ukraine right now, because they've been talking with you. Talking to Putin right now. They've been talking to Ukraine all along. So I don't want. And then whenever they were trying to negotiate peace, support, quote unquote peace that they tried to do, they were not even inviting Russia. So now Trump is going to go talk to them first,
I agree
and
with
eventually,
you that
yes,
I like to agree with you that under Biden they didn't necessarily talk to Putin. That's from my knowledge. I know that's very personal. Biden doesn't like Putin. It happens since his days as vice president. So I guess the animosity was still there even during his presidency, and they didn't talk to him. And I guess more so it's because of Putin's style of leadership, and also his desire to always want to be in control. And I always say this. I mean, this may not be what a lot of people like to hear. I think Putin is probably one of the smartest, if not the smartest, world leader, especially based on his background. So I guess they were just trying to avoid him. But I know also that that is not going to largely solve the problem. It's a two-country, war. You have to speak to both sides to be able to bring peace. But I also think United States was trying to support Ukraine because they showed interest to join NATO, which was an organization that is largely controlled by America, and that's why Biden decided to stand by Ukraine instead of trying to
but
able.
Ukraine is a very poor country. The only thing we can benefit from Ukraine is all their resources. And I'm sure you now agree that it's okay to go steal other nations' resources, because the resources are meant to be for the people of that nation. That's what God blessed them with. So Ukraine, how much is their GDP? Because the NATO is based on GDP. So how much contribution can Ukraine add? Now, the whole world has spent so much money on trying to destroy one another instead of trying to find peace. So I do not see anything wrong with Trump talking with Russia right now, because Russia is the powerful country. Because if left to Russia and Ukraine alone, Ukraine would have been destroyed. But because of all the support Ukraine has amassed over the time, right, they've been able to
I mean,
hold themselves together.
Ukraine is largely standing and just because of the support they've been able to get. And that support is majorly from America. And I think that's why it's a big blow to them, because now Trump's position is that they're not going to be supporting them as extensively as Biden administration was. So, and I think that's one of the things that is forcing the back of Ukraine at this point to concede. Because if your biggest supporter is telling you, look, I am not going to be supporting you anymore, I'm just going to create, a peace, whatever treaty, whatever that you're going to admit to. They necessarily don't have a lot to do. They can't the support they were getting from the United States, they can't get the same from France or the United Kingdom or any of these other countries. So largely America was the biggest supporter, and I think that is what is forcing Zelensky's and at this moment to just, accept whatever they laid on this table. Because if America says they're no longer going to support you, he's going to lose this war. And in fairness to them, Ukraine has done very well fighting this war. But yeah, it has always been based on the massive support from Joe Biden and the American people.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Right now, the Ukraine and the leaders in Europe, they are trying to protest or protest all this stuff that Trump is trying to do, but eventually they're going to be subdued for sure. Because Trump, if you read his book, The Art of the Deal, uh, is a very good negotiator. You know, it may not always go the way everybody wants it, but at least
I don't think
a deal will be
I
made.
don't think he's a good negotiator, but I think he knows how to still get certain things done. He knows how to twist people's arm to get what he wants done. At the end of the day, the I think the goal of every reasonable person or every reasonable human would be for a lasting peace in between Russia and Ukraine. So the peace is important, but I also think while trying to achieve the peace, one country should not be overly favored at the expense and detriment of the other. I mean, to end wars like this, there's going to be concession from both countries, but don't let one country concede too much at the expense of the other one. And some people are clamoring now that the reason why Trump did all of that was because he got support from Russia, so he feels the need to pay them back. And it's looking
According to the GDP of Russia,
that narrative is looking a little too true.
no, how much is the GDP of Russia to the point where they can control Americans? You know, this is just propaganda that Americans like to put out, and I'm not leaving any party out. This is something they do with Russia, they do it with China as well. They will tell you in China they have these certain numbers that they use to rate your behavior if you behave badly. But no, we know that's not happening over there. I mean, we have freaking social security number here, and we have tax your credit scores here in America. If your credit score is bad, you're going to be severely punished for that. So we can't just be pointing fingers while we're also doing exactly the same thing. So I mean, we influence other countries' election results, and this has been shown to be happening over and over. But you know what? Whenever we see any country trying to, maybe I'm not campaigning for this at all. I'm not saying anything, but we like to blame other countries. I do not appreciate that. But again, I think if you are fighting against very, very strong people, you better be careful because you're gonna pay for it. Because a lot of times, the person, if they are too powerful, they can destroy you, and it only makes sense to try to appease the powerful one. Even though it doesn't sound fair, but at least it's pragmatic. Otherwise, it's just going to be a lose-lose situation, which we do not want for for the whole world. Right now, everything is more expensive. We have a lot of chaos around the world. We don't want this to continue. We want growth. We're in technology era. AI is out there. We shouldn't be fighting anymore at this point in human history. We are too advanced. I believe we're too. I think I am too advanced. How about that? I
I
think I'm
don't
too
think
advanced.
I mean, concluding this episode, I likely don't think people really want to fight, but people are forced to fight, and largely the all the wars that in the recent times, they've been more about territory. This is my territory. Their territory was I want to control my space. The other person feels like they should be telling you how to control your space, and that's how everything has been blown out of proportion. But we would hope that in the long run, there's going to be peace between Russia and Ukraine. And if there's not even going to be peace, at least there's still going to be uh, existence of both country and the ability to tolerate each other. Sometimes I don't believe peace is achievable or obtainable. I just think ability to tolerate each other is largely what we may need. The same way I tolerate Republicans like you. Necessarily, we don't have to agree or live in peace, but we tolerate each other and respect each other's views and perspective on things. So I think it's just people just need to live by the golden rule of minding them businesses. So, guys, we're coming to the end of this episode. Sure, what you gotta tell our people that are always watching us.
Yes, thank you again for coming back to the channel. Please keep supporting the business. We are seeing the growth right now is looking slow, but we understand how things work. Just the same way Trump understands things. We understand things take time. Our economy is not looking great right now, but eventually we are gonna have uh, honey all over that we can drink more than we need. Americans are going to be getting fat in a good way, not full of junk, but this is going to be a peace of mind type of fat, if you know what I'm saying. Yes. So, with that being said, again, please hit the like button. Thank you for coming back to the channel.
Thank you so much. Continue to like, share, comment, and more importantly, subscribe. Support DEI business. Thank you.
Not the AI, sir, not the AI. But thank you for coming back.
See you in the next episode, guys. Bye.
Bye bye.